All right, now let's go back to our sketch, or rather our picture. This is not a sketch, people. And this part is easy. It's simply an alternating pattern between silver, blue, silver, red, and silver, blue. But of course, we don't have to follow it. We could take our own liberties. So I'm going to go back. And since we already have some of these colors here, or as a matter of fact, all of them, I'm simply going to use that technique I showed you, holding down the Alt or Option key in conjunction with Shift. I'm going to grab this red one, move it down like so. And since I'm already here, I'll just go ahead and move that down like this. And I'm going to just fill those guys in like this. Then I'll go ahead and do the same thing with the blue. Move a blue one down. And you might see me clicking away from the shape a lot because I like to deselect it so I can start that keyboard combination again. And I'm going to move this one down just a little bit by eyeballing it. When I'm doing things that don't have to be exact, in other words, if I'm doing something for fun, like this diner, I will often eyeball things, but when it's for a client who's paying me, I'll be a lot more precise and use measurements and that kind of thing. And as you can see here, I simply duplicated this part here, this gradient. And now we have our wall. Now before we add our windows, let's go ahead and vamp up this gradient here. Pretty boring so far. So don't forget, we can use this bar here, or we can go ahead and use the gradient tool itself. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's give it an angle too. Let's go ahead and just take that gradient and give this guy in here an angle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add some more stops. So when you see the plus sign, you can go ahead and click and click and click, and then we can double click on those guys and give them different colors. So I make a light band here, double click on this guy, give it a darker band, and we'll get a metallic look by doing this. Okay, double click here, give this one a dark one, and I'm going to hit the escape key to move away from that dialog box, and it looks pretty good. Might be too dark though, that's the problem. Let me just take a look over here. Yeah, I'm thinking that the metal is just a little too dark and foreboding, so I'm going to once again go back to the gradient. I'm going to change this dark color to a gray. I'm going to lighten these up. So I'm going to make this one brighter. That one looks good dark in the middle. We'll take the one all the way at the end and we'll lighten that one up as well. Hit escape. You can also add some blues in there and some purples if you want to as well. That looks pretty good so far. So how are we going to get this gradient into the rest of these guys? Well, I'm going to click on this guy here, grab my eyedropper, and then click in this metal, and then that goes down there. We'll grab the big metal bar back there behind all these little stripes, grab our eyedropper and click in here again, and that gradient is now everywhere. It's a fast way of working. So now we have our gradient. We can also add it in these bars. So I'm going to shift select to grab all these, eyedrop it, and now we have a gradient in there. And as you can see, since I had those guys grouped, they took the gradient out, or rather took the red color out of the center one. So I'm going to have to simply double click in here and go to isolation mode and just give that guy red back. And go back in here, double click, click on this one. Yeah, don't be afraid when you make mistakes. You could just, think it out and easily fix things. Of course, I could duplicate all those again, but sometimes when things are easy to fix like this, which took 20 seconds, you might as well just go ahead and do it the long way. You have to kind of know when to do things the hard way and when to not do things the hard way. I'm also going to shift select all this stuff here because I have a bit of a space there, and I'll move that up to close that gap. That looks pretty good to me so far. Now what we're going to do is add our windows. Now you might be wondering why I'm doing everything on one layer. Well, because this is pretty easy to work with, and I can get to things. I don't really have to worry about not being able to grab the artwork in this particular piece of artwork. If it was a lot more complicated and we had some trees and leaves and all kinds of things I had to negotiate around, then I might consider doing that. But for now, this is one layer. I'm going to do the windows by taking one of these here, this gray bar. I'm going to copy it and paste it, and I'm going to simply scale it so that it fits inside of this space here. And I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to take my gradient and I'm going to go to this bar here and I'll add a little dark blue, double click on this one, add a little bit of a light blue, double click on this one here. Actually, I don't want that there. I'll get rid of that one and I'll get rid of this one, and I'm going to spread these out like so. And this is a little too dark, I think, so I'm going to go ahead and make that a little lighter. Like I said, always, never be afraid to try things and to experiment. If it doesn't look right, feel free to change it. And now we have one window, and let's go ahead and just duplicate that using that keyboard combination I talked about. All right, Alt or Option and the Shift key, and we'll move those windows and scale them to fit the spots they're supposed to be in. Okay, on your own, you might want to just go ahead and distribute these columns so that they're spaced a little bit better, because mine, I have some windows that are thin and some thicker ones. Now that we have our windows in place and we have our wall done, what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and add a pattern inside of this piece here, and we're going to start to add our shadows to make this look a little bit more realistic.